narrative tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. These virtual tours are sponsored by Thurgood Marshall Center Trust's student programs. To learn more of the TMCT student programs, go to the TMCT website at tmctprograms.org. Thank you and enjoy the tour. Would you like to be a part of this awesome Student Beacon Leadership Program, as well as other student programs? Make sure you click the Register Now button on the tmctprograms.org website. There, you'll be directed to a page where you just fill out some information about yourself. Join to be a Beacon Leader today. The TMCT Narrative Virtual Tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. Each virtual tour is narrated by a knowledgeable expert in the field. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
I'm Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. for the Thurgood Marshall Center, and I'm pleased to welcome you on this tour of the historic Shaw District, located in the heart of DC's African American community.
Hello passengers, welcome to the Shaw District Virtual Tour. Buckle up, our first stop on the tour is in the heart of the Shaw District. We will be traveling along U Street, merging left on Florida Avenue and turning left onto 7th Street. We're here, enjoy the tour.
Shaw is a central neighborhood in the northwest quadrant of Washington, D.C., the capital city of the United States. Shaw and the U Street corridor historically have been the city's African American social, cultural, and economic hub that witnessed civil rights leaders like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, as well as being the area that saw numerous social uprisings, marches, and protests that fought to achieve racial equality in the Shaw area and throughout the entirety of America. The District of Columbia has designated much of Shaw as the Shaw Historic District. This historically African American neighborhood is the home to the 1910 Howard Theater, where jazz greats like Ella Fitzgerald, Pearl Bailey, and DC's local owned Duke Ellington once performed. Shaw is hip, trendy, and edgy. From the live go-go music of the neighborhood to the legendary restaurants and theaters to the African American Civil War Memorial and the first African American YMCA in the country, now the Thurgood Marshall Center Trust. You'll find plenty of excitement and culture here. Shaw emerged from freed slave encampments in the rural outskirts of Washington, D.C. It was originally called Uptown in an era when the city's boundary ended at Boundary Street, now Florida Avenue. The lack of investment and limited power in the area created a barrier in the neighborhood's development and urbanization during the early 1800s. Further growth was hindered by increasing racial tensions as more African Americans settled in the region. By the 1850s, Washington, D.C. had one of the largest African American populations of any city in the United States. The neighborhood thrived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries as the pre-Harlem National Center of U.S. Black intellectual and cultural life. Shaw's neighborhood offers different landmarks consisting of the Howard Theater, the Dunbar Theater, the City Market at O Street, and the historic Shiloh Baptist Church that when President Obama was president, he and Michelle Obama attended regularly. I want to encourage all of you to learn about this historic Shaw District, and if you ever have a chance to be in America and to be in the nation's capital, you have to visit the historic Shaw District.
Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed the tour. Now we're going to see if you were really paying attention. The question is, where is the Shaw District located? Is it A, Prince George's County, B, Washington, D.C., or C, Fairfax, Virginia? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. The Shaw District is located in Washington, D.C. Good job. Okay, question number 2. Who was the presenter of the Shaw District tour? Was it A, Lemony, B, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, or C, Barack Obama? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. The Shaw District tour was narrated by Dr. Benjamin Chavis. Good job. Okay, question number 3. What street was formerly the boundary street of the Shaw District? Was it A, New York Avenue, B, Capitol Street, or C, Florida Avenue? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said C, you are correct. The Shaw District's former boundary street was Florida Avenue. Good job. Okay, last question. What U.S. president attended the Shiloh Baptist Church while in office? Is it A, George W. Bush, B, Barack Obama, or C, Lincoln? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. Barack Obama visited Shiloh Baptist Church during his term as president. Good job. Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about the Shaw District. Our next stop is Thurgood Marshall Center Trust. We will be traveling along P Street, making a right on R Street, turning left onto T Street, and going down 12th Street. We're here. Enjoy the tour. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Dr. Thomasina Yearwood. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
Greetings. I'm Dr. Thomasina Yearwood, President and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall Center Trust. It is an honor and privilege to share with you the history of the Thurgood Marshall Center for Service and Heritage. Justice Marshall's family allowed the trust to name the building after Thurgood Marshall, and Mrs. Cecilia Marshall is the honorary chair of the board of directors. I began with the trust in 2001 as the executive director. My journey has been exciting and very satisfying as the legacy of the center has evolved. The YMCA was built in 1908 with President Theodore Roosevelt laying the cornerstone. The 12th Street YMCA became the first YMCA in the country due to the African American men of Washington, D.C. raising $25,000 to meet the challenge of Julius Rosenwald to match his $25,000 contribution. The Thurgood Marshall Center for Service and Heritage is an historic landmark building. Many notable individuals visit the building on a regular basis. Coach John Thompson of Georgetown University was founded in the center's gymnasium. Langston Hughes lived at the Y for a time, and his room has been preserved for viewing. Dr. Charles Drew studied at the Y, and Thurgood Marshall mentored young men and authored portions of Brown v. Board. In addition, Elgin Baylor worked out and trained in the gymnasium. Many African American organizations, both social, business, and clubs, were established at the 12th Street Y. The Thurgood Marshall Center for Service and Heritage only leased to nonprofit organizations at a below market rate. This allows nonprofits to put their savings into their programming to better serve the community. Currently, there are 10 nonprofit organizations housed in the building, serving the Shaw community and DC proper. As the current CEO, I have personally developed several pertinent programs. In 2004, we had a fundraiser honoring the original team of Justice Marshall Brown v. Board. It was covered by C-SPAN. In addition, the Thurgood Marshall Center Trust student programs with the Phenomenal Series for men, women, seniors, and youth, and the unveiling of the Thurgood Marshall stamp with Mrs. Marshall and Vernon Jordan as our keynote speaker. The Trust continues to create programs to serve the community with ongoing monthly lecture series, TMCT Social Justice Program, yearly back-to-school festivals for students which help the families, Backpack Reloaded, mid-year supplies for students. In addition, special events which are below market rate, which include seminars and meetings and events held at the center. I hope you have enjoyed the virtual tour presented by the Thurgood Marshall Center Trust student programs. We are very proud of our students. We look forward to those of you who live in the city visiting, and we currently welcome individuals and families visiting Washington, D.C. to come and tour the Thurgood Marshall Center for Service and Heritage. Please know you will be welcome.
Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed the tour. Now we're going to see if you were really paying attention. The question is, what NBA player was discovered at the center? Was it A, Michael Jordan, B, Elgin Baylor, or C, Mr. Jonte Lee? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. Elgin Baylor worked out and trained in the TMCT gymnasium. Good job. Okay, question number 2. The TMCT building was the first of what in America? Was it A, the first polo grounds, B, the first football stadium, or C, the first YMCA? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said C, you are correct. TMCT was the first YMCA in America. Good job. Okay, question number 3. What U.S. president laid the cornerstone of the TMCT building? Was it A, Abraham Lincoln, B, John F. Kennedy, or C, Theodore Roosevelt? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said C, you are correct. U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt laid the cornerstone for the Thurgood Marshall Center Trust building. Good job. Okay, last question. What famous poet was housed at the TMCT building? Was it A, Edgar Allan Poe, B, Langston Hughes, or C, Maya Angelou? Are you ready? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. Langston Hughes was housed at the TMCT building. Good job. Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about Thurgood Marshall Center. Our next stop is the African American Civil War Museum. We will be traveling down 11th Street, turning right onto U Street and merging right onto Vermont Avenue. We're here. Enjoy the tour. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Major Dwayne M. Littlejohn. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
My name is Major Dwayne Littlejohn. Commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, December 2008. I've served over 10 years on active duty, and I've loved every minute of it. My family has a rich history of military and police service, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. My father is a Marine veteran who served as an officer in the United States Marine Corps. My great uncle was a Marine. He served in Vietnam. My grandfather is an Army veteran and a local police officer in the Washington, D.C. area. It means a great deal to us to be able to serve our country and to provide some type of contribution to the success of the nation. Being an African American serving in the armed forces and being from the Washington, D.C. area, this museum is of great importance and significance to me. It shows that African American history is American history, and the contributions of all people who have fought for justice and freedom on behalf of the American flag deserve to be recognized. The African American Civil War Memorial Museum was dedicated by the African American Civil War Memorial Freedom Foundation, July 1998. It's located in the U Street district of Washington, D.C., and recognized the contributions of over 209,000 African Americans who served as members of the United States Colored Troops, the USCT, together with about 7,000 white and over 2,000 Hispanic soldiers, and approximately 20,000 unsegregated Navy soldiers. Altogether, there were 175 regiments of the United States Colored Troops who fought for the Union in the American Civil War. As a family, we're extremely proud of our service. It's a great mark for us to be able to have some form of contribution to protecting our way of life as a country. The memorial is located at the corner of Vermont Avenue, 10th Street, and U Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. It's marked by a 9-foot bronze statue, The Spirit of Freedom, by Ed Hamilton of Louisville, Kentucky, commissioned by the D.C. Commission on the Arts and Humanities in 1993. It was completed in 1997. The memorial includes a walking area with curved panel, short walls inscribed with the names of the men who served in the war. It's important to maintain a connection to our history and service that we can be proud of as a nation and as a culture. I stand on the shoulders of those who have served before me, who have broken barriers in the defense of the nation. I hope that this piece of history, that this legacy, serves as a beacon to attract bright young men and women from diverse backgrounds to take advantage of the opportunities provided to them by those who came before them, that people fought for and died for in the defense of our nation, and that this next generation participates in the creation of opportunities for future generations.
Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed the tour. Now we're going to see if you were really paying attention. The question is, how many African Americans participated in the Civil War? Is it A, 250 soldiers, B, 207,000 soldiers, or C, 1,000 soldiers? You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. Over 207,000 African American soldiers fought in the American Civil War. Good job. Okay, question number 2. The War Memorial statue is located on the corner of A, Vermont Avenue and 10th Street, or B, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You have 5 seconds to answer. If you said A, you are correct. The African American Civil War Museum's memorial is located on Vermont Avenue and 10th Street. Good job. Okay, the third question is, who is listed on the curved walls on the grounds of the African American Civil War Museum Memorial? Is it A, Negro League baseball players, or B, African American soldiers? You have 5 seconds to answer. Good luck! If you said B, you are correct. The memorial includes a walking area inscribed with the names of the men who served in the war. Good job. Okay, last question. What branch of the military is the presenter Major Littlejohn in? Is it A, the U.S. Navy, B, the U.S. Air Force, or C, the U.S. Marines? Okay, get ready. You have 5 seconds to answer. Now. If you said C, you are correct. The presenter for this tour, Major Dwayne M. Littlejohn, is a second lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps. Amazing job. Keep it up. Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about African American Civil War Museum. Our next stop is Busboys and Poets. We will be traveling along U Street and making a right onto 14th. We're here, enjoy the tour. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Andy Shalal. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
Hello, I'm Andy Shalal. I'm the CEO and founder of Busboys and Poets, which is a local gathering place here in Washington, D.C. It's a cultural center that brings art, culture, and politics together.
Busboys and Poets is a full-service restaurant, bar, bookstore, coffee shop, and events venue in Washington, D.C. Founded in 2005 by Andy Shalal.
So all of these layers coming together to create a space that represents DC was important to me, having grown up here in the city for many years. And I wanted a space that I wanted to go to that has its own unique DC identity. I was tired of people coming in and saying, this is so New York, this is so LA, this is so this and that, but never this is so DC. And I thought, well, why not? You know, DC has its own character. Why not create something that really does feel and look like DC? And that's where Busboys and Poets was born.
The original Busboys and Poets is located at 14th and V in the U Street corridor. The name refers to American poet Langston Hughes, who worked as a busboy at the Wardman Park Hotel in the 1930s, prior to gaining recognition as a poet.
Busboys and Poets is named after the great African-American poet Langston Hughes, probably one of the most prolific and best-known poets of the 20th century, certainly. Langston Hughes grew up in D.C. for a short period of time. He didn't grow up really here, but he lived here for a short period of time. He worked as a busboy at the Wardman Park Hotel, which is still there in Woodley Park in Washington. And one day when he was working there, a very famous poet by the name of Vacha Lindsay, who happened to be in town for some kind of conference, happened to walk into the restaurant where Langston Hughes was working. The young Langston Hughes at that time, was 22 years old, slipped some of his poetry next to Vacha Lindsay's plate. So the next day on his way to work, Langston Hughes picks up the newspaper, and on it is said that Vacha Lindsay had discovered a busboy poet. A couple months later, he was able to leave that job and work full-time as a poet and speaker and writer, and traveled all over the United States after that.
Shalal painted the giant civil rights movement themed mural covering one wall of the restaurant, titled Peace in Struggle Wall. He refuses to sign the mural, saying this would be a final gesture that would preclude him from making revisions later. The collage depicts civil rights icons including the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. It features the words of Langston Hughes, "Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be."
I studied Langston Hughes when I was in middle school. Was one of the first really people of the Harlem Renaissance that I was introduced to. We had a really gifted teacher that was very much interested in teaching us American history through the Harlem Renaissance. And learning about Langston Hughes, he also required us to memorize poetry. Of course, not speaking the language, I could still memorize, but I didn't understand the words. But it was very empowering to be able to say words that you may not know what they mean, but they're coming out of your mouth. So I memorized lots of Langston Hughes poetry. I still have it in my head. And so the poem "Let America Be America Again," one of the most iconic poems that he'd written, really represented to me exactly where we are today in America. Certainly when I opened in 2005, things have changed, of course, quite a bit, but still, America's still a work in progress. And that's what Langston Hughes was talking about, the America that could be. And I wanted to share that kind of sentimentality and that kind of sentiment with folks that walk into Busboys and Poets, to be able to see this is how I see America as well. As an immigrant coming to this country, I heard of that America that's amazing and incredible and egalitarian and everybody's free and this is home of the brave, blah, blah, blah. But then when you come here, you recognize there's lots and lots of flaws in America, as it is in many other nations, of course. But we have to address those flaws and we have to work on them in order for us to become a more perfect union, as our Constitution states. So that's really kind of where I kind of started with it. I love the idea of having a space where people can come and eat and be able to connect with one another. They otherwise may not have an opportunity to do that because it's like a watering hole, right? Everybody comes to it. And then once they're there, magic happens. People start connecting with each other. They start talking to each other. They break bread together. And suddenly you start breaking barriers and connect people from opposite ends of the city sometimes that otherwise wouldn't have opportunities to see each other. And I think it can make for a better, more cohesive, community. And that was kind of the idea behind Busboys and Poets.
Hello, passengers. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Now we're going to see if you were really paying attention. The question is, who was the famous busboy who inspired the name Busboys and Poets? Was it A, Rick Lee, B, Langston Hughes, or C, Nikki Giovanni? Get ready, you have 5 seconds to answer. Did you say B? You are correct. The name of the restaurant, Busboys and Poets, is inspired by the famous busboy Langston Hughes. You're killing it at this game. Amazing job. Okay, question number 2. Who was the founder of Busboys and Poets? Was it A, Chris Brooks, B, Andy Shalal, C, Steph Curry? Think fast, you have 5 seconds to answer. Did you say B? Wow, you're correct. Andy Shalal is the founder of Busboys and Poets. You really were paying attention. Great job. Okay, question number 3. What was the name of the mural on the wall of the original Busboys and Poets? Was it A, Let Freedom Ring, B, Peace and Struggle Wall, or C, It Is What It Is? Stay on your toes, you only have 5 seconds to answer. If you said B, you are correct. Andy Shalal painted the Peace and Struggle Wall mural in the original Busboys and Poets restaurant. Wow, you're a genius. Okay, last question. What was the name of the poem listed on the wall of Busboys and Poets? Was it A, Dreaming, B, Let America Be America Again, or C, What's Happening? Okay, 5 seconds on the clock starting now. Did you say B? You are correct. The name of the mural on the wall in Busboys and Poets is Let America Be America Again, an homage to the Langston Hughes poem. You rock! Great job!